Hello, and welcome to Essential Alchemy. Alchemy is defined as the power or process that changes or transforms something in a mysterious or impressive way. My hope is that the information in this podcast can help you transform your mood, your energy, physical health, or even connect some dots to help you shift your mental or emotional state. I'm your host, Jodi Cohen, a best-selling author, award-winning journalist, functional practitioner, lifelong learner, and founder of Vibrant Blue Oils, a company that sells proprietary blends of high-quality organic or wild-crafted essential oil remedies designed to help you return to your ideal mental, physical, and emotional state. You can find out more about me and my company at vibrantblueoils.com. And with that, let's get started with today's episode. Hi, I'm Jodi Cohen, your host, and I'm so excited to be joined today by my dear friend, Dr. Ryan Wohlfert. He is a certified mindset specialist, certified chiropractic sports physician, and certified chiropractic biophysics physician, using a specific spinal rehab and postural correction protocol to help patients resolve chronic pain and prevent disease and organ dysfunction. With 23 plus years, even though you look so young, of education and clinical experience, Dr. Ryan has helped thousands correct their spine, upgrade energy and longevity, eliminate dependence on medication, and make simple, healthy, pain free living possible. And I'm excited to have you here to talk about spinal health for resilience. Welcome, Dr. Wolfert.
Thanks for having me, Jody. I appreciate it. I love getting this information out there to people because not enough people know about it, and even less, I think, are even talking about it. And that's probably why people don't know.
No, it's really exciting. And it's one of those things that it's like a missing link to health. So let's jump right in. Why is addressing one's spinal health and structure essential not only for chronic pain, but also for resilience and function?
Well, that's I love starting off with that because it gives a nice premise of what we're talking about, nice principle. And the premise and principle that I go on is the spine it's the foundation of our strength in our body and the health in our body because of what it houses, the jobs it does, which we'll get into. But why this is so important, why we need to address it is over two-thirds of our population in the world has this distorted spinal posture and spinal curves that lead to chronic issues like chronic pain, but also chronic fatigue, increased medication use, disability, arthritis, accelerated aging. And those are like more physical things, but it also affects your mood, your emotions, and that obviously affects our resilience physically and mentally and emotionally. So, what, and this might be shocking to a lot of people, is it's not only physical, like body musculoskeletal health, but it's
Mhm.
also how it affects our organs.
Yeah.
Because there's multiple studies that have shown that this distorted, this weakened, injured type spinal posture, which again, we'll talk about, it increases the risk of death, okay, from cardiovascular issues, pulmonary issues, and from all causes. So, these positions and why it's becoming such a problem is think about how we're increasingly in these forward flexed postures or in this
Yeah.
forward flexed posture, right? Day after day, looking at our iPhones, looking at our smartphones, iPads, laptops, computers, just sitting on the couch watching TV possibly. So it's becoming a serious problem, not just with the adults, but look around and seeing all the kids and children that are in that forward flexed posture. And that's leading to that accelerated aging. So we need to find a way, or there is a way, not even find one, but instruct people on how to correct their spine and look and address spinal structure is not only something that just doesn't look great, but
Yeah.
how your body doesn't function. And when it's in that position, you lose that resiliency. So, I know you have a lot of experts on here talking about, nutrition and exercise, and those are so important, but we have to address the core of our body, not just like our, stomach. That's what people equate as the core, but the core in the foundation of your body is actually your spine.
So
So we have
tell me
to address that
what,
as a source of these issues.
Before we kind of get into what can go wrong, talk to me about what does a healthy spine look like?
Excellent. Yes. So think about this. If we're looking at, you from the front, we want everything straight up and down.
Mhm.
So if we have our feet about hip width apart,
Right.
toes pointing straight ahead, flared out slightly, and if we take it like right between our feet, like midway between our feet, a point there,
Yeah.
and go up from the ground, we want the pelvis, like the pubic bone, we want the middle of the chest, and we want the nose, like right here, all lined up. So
Okay.
that's good posture. That's
Yeah.
perfect posture there. Now, but what can happen, and I'll get into the side part of it because I like addressing the front part because most people will just look at, that slunch. Oh, I got to
Oh
improve my
yeah.
posture.
Yeah.
That we got to sit up straight. While there's also the element front to back, because if it gets off as little as 5 millimeters, it creates a weakness in your body and spine, and it can't, it's not going to be as resilient. Okay.
Yes.
So from the side, and let me go back to this because I think this gives a great visual of how important this part of it is. And people might think, okay, that's a scoliosis. It doesn't have to be diagnosed as a scoliosis. But if we're hammering a nail, we want that nail to be straight up and down, right?
Mhm.
Because it's the nail is strong. But if there's just a little bend in that nail, and now we hit it, what's going to happen? It's going to continue to weaken, and that it's going to continue to get more of a kink in it. Okay, and
Right.
bend.
Right.
So that's why that straight front to back view is so important. From the side, it's the same premise. Looking down from your ankle, we want the ankle bone lined up with your hip or center of your pelvis, center of your shoulder, center of the ear. And that's
Mhm.
the one that most people look at as like, all right, I got to sit up straight. Even as we talk, I'm sure people are sitting up straight
I'm
as I
doing it.
talk. It's
I'm
that
turning into
reminder.
my posture.
It's
So
kind of like breathing. As soon as you mention breathing, people start breathing. So
yeah.
that's the normal posture. That's the normal external posture. The deal is if your posture is distorted like that, typically your spine is distorted as well. But let's say we look at you, you look at yourself, and okay, those points are lined up. That doesn't mean your spine is in a healthy position
Right.
because
Right.
because the spine has to have from the side these different curves
Right.
so one in the neck, one in the mid back, and one in the low back, all evening out. Because what that those do, and I'll go right into, why do we need this posture? Right? Why is this so essential to our overall health and be able to withstand, the forces and the gravity that we put on it? Well, these curves and healthy spinal correct structure decreases the physical and neurological stress on your body because it provides shock absorption.
Right.
So we can withstand, think about a spring. It will withstand the forces from compression from walking, running, jogging, or even just sitting there in general. But the
Right.
more force that we put on it, it can absorb that stress. It protects the spinal cord. It provides leverage for movement, creates more efficiency when we have the correct spinal structure and curves. More efficiency for movement means less energy wasted, less resources used to just be in the world. So it'll increase our resilience because your body's not having to, figure out just by sitting there how to use more energy. Now we can use it for healing. We can use it for the immune system. We can use it for our metabolism.
Yeah.
And lastly, I mentioned this with that, and I'm going to go back to it because this is I just said it real quickly there. Why it's the strength, foundation of strength in our body and our health is because of what's inside of it and what the spine protects, which is our nervous system, our spinal cord.
Right.
So that goes right down the middle of the spine. If you're in a distorted posture, again,
Right.
we'll just take the most common one, that slumped posture, head forward, shoulders rounded, mid back rounded, low back flat, that posture there, that's been shown to stretch the spinal cord. Okay. So neurologically, it stretches the spinal cord. It wears down, creates calluses on the spinal cord if it's rubbing up against the bones. And then secondly, this is where the multiple studies have shown of how this affects our lifespan. And again, these are not, chiropractic journals or anything like that. These are top medical journals showing how it can, this thoracic hyperkyphosis, that's what we're talking about, head forward posture, mid back rounded, is a predictor alone for taking up to 15 years off somebody's life. So that's where
That's
this whole risk of, you know,
yeah.
disease and death comes from.
It kind of compresses the diaphragm and impacts breathing and the organs as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and you can do a simple test to where get into that posture and try to take a deep breath in and out, and then sit up straight or try to sit up straight and then do it. And it's much easier to do. Sometimes, if you can't get into that upright posture, that means it's already degenerated to a point where you might need some extra help rather than just, all right, trying to force it, because your body can only force it for so long, or
Right.
try to be aware of it where we have to make it more of an unconscious type activity rather than, being constantly aware of it 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Well, what's sad is that I think people think of chiropractic care like, when they've been in a car accident or they have a sports injury, they only go in there like in response to knowing they've been hurt. It doesn't occur to them to be like proactive and preventative.
Right. And I think that's a lot with even nutrition and exercise, right? There's got to
Yeah.
be some sort of crisis.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you're right. I think many people realize, and that's why I'm so happy you're having me on here, so I can kind of dispel these not myths and misconceptions, but
Yeah.
just because you don't have pain in your spine doesn't mean your spine is fine.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
always important to get it checked, check your posture. But there are, and we'll go over ways of like how to assess your own posture from, DIY all the way to the most accurate here in a minute.
I mean, most of us kind of lean over to one side, which I think is a good indicator that we're not aligned. Yeah, we
Mhm.
can get into that a little bit and then kind of talk about what we can do to correct it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the protocol that we use in so that the technique I use is called CBP, chiropractic biophysics, or even clinical biomechanics of posture. That's another CBP acronym for that. And it is actually the most validated scientifically chiropractic technique in the journals. There's over 300 journals with this just specific technique. And it's a whole spine, whole body technique to take just how we've discussed already of correcting the posture while also getting functional improvements in people's lives. And these, there's one study or maybe two that I'll mention before I get into the actual protocol, but when you lose the curve in the neck and it goes forward into your head translation, and this goes perfectly with what the Essential Alchemy podcast is all about, is creating resilience, is when you're in that posture, it decreases the conduction time of the somatosensory system. So, like the signals going to and from the brain to adapt and modify how we respond to the environment. Well, there's one study in Nature, so it's the most cited journal in the world, shows that when you correct, when CBP correct that posture, it improved conduction times. It
Okay.
improved, again, the conduction potential of these nerves going to and neural activity created neuroplasticity changes. And it was, hypothesized, well, that's because we're taking stress off of the spinal cord, so now it can actually function and change the actual structure of that instead of it being stretched like a rubber band where it's
Yeah.
tense and tight and smaller. So keep that in mind as we go through this, and why, again, the spine is the foundation of our strength. Because when we can't line up against gravity because that's
Yeah.
off, and I'll show you how to assess that, then we're going to, lead to more dysfunction, lead to more symptoms, not just pain, but also fatigue. That's been shown. Disability. That's
Right.
obviously a huge problem too.
Do you think that poor spinal alignment compromises vagus nerve function and signaling?
Absolutely. Yes. Because of, especially again, the most common postural distortion is the forward head posture.
Oh, the neck.
So, yeah, right up here, right up like the brainstem area, which houses these parasympathetic functioning activities, helps you rest and digest, helps
Yeah.
you digest food. The biggest example I use for that is you don't have to have problems down in the gut to have problems in the gut or symptoms, let's say,
Right.
because of how the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system works up here and sympathetic as well. But Christopher Reeves, right?
Yeah.
Most people are familiar with him. He broke his neck.
Yeah.
He was quadriplegic. He couldn't move. People saw him in the wheelchair, but what happened? He broke his neck right up here, C1, and
Yeah.
it's not like it severed the spinal cord, but it
Separate the
dented it
signals.
maybe like 2 centimeters, and look how his body shut down, physically could move. Well, he had to have a pacemaker installed because his heart wouldn't function on its own. He had to have a defibrillator, okay, because again, his heart wouldn't function on its own. He had to have um, uh, 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 breathing, help with his breathing. He had to, and this is where the gut comes in how the nerves up here affect all the way throughout the body, is he couldn't go to the bathroom on his own, right? People had to help him go to the bathroom, had to push on his stomach to do that.
Gosh,
It's not like
I
he
really
fell and hurt
feels
these
yeah.
organs, but these were being affected up there.
Yeah. Well, that and I mean, that really correlates to what I'm talking about. Like the neck is really, I think, the bottleneck to healing, especially with structures. So I'm so grateful that you're addressing how we can recognize
Mhm.
if structure is out of balance and in
Yep.
addition to seeing someone like you, but kind of align ourselves and correct it. So
Yes.
how
And if
how would
yeah,
someone like
let's do
that
that.
like
So remember, so let's get into the like assessment, easy
okay.
assessment parts. And just to give you a preview, so we're going to assess. So eat. So we're going to assess and then we're going to eat. EAT, the eat method.
Okay.
Exercise, adjust, and traction. And I'll explain each of those
Love the
a little
acronym.
bit. Okay.
Okay.
What's there?
I love the acronym.
And that's straight from CBP. So assess, there's simple techniques you can do. The wall test for forward head posture, that's probably the easiest. So you stand up against the wall, put your butt, put your mid back,
Mhm.
and your head up against the wall. Your feet should be about 5 to 10 centimeters, like 2 to 4 inches. I'm sorry. Yeah, like, sorry, 2 to 4 inches away from the wall. Okay. And if you can't, and you should be comfortable. So butt, the tailbone area, mid back, and head. If you
Yeah.
can't touch the head to the wall comfortably, well, then you know that more than likely you have forward head posture. That doesn't mean it's just that, but where is that coming from? Is it coming from a thoracic or your mid back being hunched over?
Yeah.
Because that can be driving the head going forward. So
Yeah.
if you don't do anything here and your head is forward and you're just going like this, I guess it's better than nothing,
Yeah.
to bring your head back. But we have to open up the chest too, open up the thoracic spine. So that's even lying down. Now, let's say you can't do it against the wall, but you want to, so try it lying down. And
Right.
if you can't lie flat without your head and your head's not touching the floor,
Yeah.
again, forward head posture.
Yeah.
Now we can get into even more. You can look in the mirror for the
Yeah.
front. All right, the front. See if your head is shifted side to side. See if your body is shifted side to side. Check the gap. So taking a comfortable stance. Uh, Look at the gap between your hips and your arms when your arms are just relaxed at your side
Okay.
when you're standing, because if there's an increased space on one compared to the other, that could mean that your body is shifted one way, maybe from sitting down too much, leaning one way, maybe from a scoliosis, maybe from your legs, one leg can be shorter than the other, one pelvis can be dropped. So that's a way to do that, is your
It's
one shoulder lower than the other.
my old chiropractor used to have 2 scales, and sometimes I was so leaning that I would be, like, 30 pounds heavier on one leg than the other.
Yeah. Hmm. And your body is a master of compensation. It's going to
Yeah,
find the least uh, resources to get the job done, even if it's at the expense of you getting sicker in the
yeah,
long run. At least there, it's trying to figure out a way, and that's why we get these postures, because a lot of them are compensations of old injuries or chronically being in these poor postural positions. So
yes,
those are like DIY stuff you can do at home. Like if you wanted more of an accurate picture,
Yeah.
one, there's something called a posture screen where we can take a picture of your posture and put points on there, and it measures how far you are away from that center of gravity. And then the most definitive way, the most accurate way are standing full spine x rays, because
Oh,
that will see the translations or the shifts and also the curves of the spine. So that's why I said at the beginning, just looking at the outer posture gives you a good clue, but it's
yeah.
always not it's not always the definitive of what is going on the inside. Just like a mechanic can hear or drive a car that's not functioning properly, or there's something off or
Yeah.
making a noise, or the check engine light is on, but unless he gets under the hood or gets under lifted up on a lift, he can't diagnose what the problem is and see what is wrong with the car. And that's the same thing with the standing spinal x-rays.
Great
And they
analogy.
want to be standing,
Yeah.
not lying down.
So this was you did an amazing job of kind of outlining the problem and making people aware of what they should do. Can you now share some corrective spinal care and posture plans?
All right, let's do some eating, EAT.
Okay.
So exercise. So this I'm not going to talk about general exercises. These are more so specific uh, uh, postural exercises. We call them mirror image. So because it's easy for me to show you in this setting, and I have you know ability to like shift my head and neck
Think it's
this
great
way, and I can
answer.
still face the camera. Is if you find during the assessment, or yeah, let's
Right.
say you're doing it at home, and you find that your head is shifted to one side. So your nose should be lined up over your chest. If you find that it's one way, okay, if it's
Yeah.
shifted, and this is a hard thing for people to do because it gets stuck there
Yeah.
in. So what you do is mirror image. So what's the mirror image posture of a right head shift? Well, now we're going to take it to the other side. And how you do that is you basically put your shoulder against something to prevent it from moving, like against a wall, or usually we
Mhm.
do these standing, put it against the wall, and then you take your head the other way and you train it that way. Again, these are general recommendations. I, I don't like giving these out just in general unless we know what the problem is. So specific postural exercises like that. A great one for the like thoracic, for the
Yeah.
mid back, open up the chest, bring the head back. I like is called a thoracic mobility, but it's also for the forward head posture, is putting your hands behind your head and neck.
Mhm.
All right. You can do this sitting, which is preferable,
Okay.
taking the elbows back,
Okay.
take your head back into your hands, and you
Okay.
can probably feel the chest maybe stretching if you're tight through there, and you're really activating right between the shoulder blades, keeping the head there. Now, if you can, you're going to do a rotation
Okay.
without losing the position of the head and neck and not collapsing the elbows forward. You want to keep the elbows back, chest up tall, and think about like a rod going right through your head, right through your spine, and you're rotating around that.
Just kind
This
of hard.
oh, this man, me just doing that for like 20 seconds as I was demonstrating,
Yeah.
I feel the circulation. Like that is like a energy hack, if you will, just to help. Ooh, it just increases the energy throughout the body because it takes stress off the spinal cord. Okay,
Right.
so those are especially that last one, that thoracic mobility. I love that one. If you can't do it because maybe your shoulders and you're so kyphotic, it's called, or hyperkyphotic,
Mhm.
arthritis, maybe
Yeah.
even like fractures in the spine that you've had, then you can just squeezing the shoulder blades together and
Okay.
taking the head back. Okay. There's always ways to adapt it to the person. All right.
Mhm.
So those are exercise. All right.
No,
So
that's great. Okay, so
specific
that's
postural
E.
exercise.
The
What's
E
that?
the It's the E and eat, then the A is adjust.
Adjust. So as a chiropractor, people think, okay, adjust the spine. Well, I want to give you tips to do at home. So this is, yes, it's adjust by a corrective care chiropractor, a
Yeah.
CBT specifically, but it's also adjusting your lifestyle. How can you adjust your lifestyle so you're not leaning to one side? How you are holding the phone, how you're looking at your phone, how you're sitting. So look at how you're going about your day when you're driving in your car, when you're sitting to eat dinner or lunch. Are you hunched over?
Yes.
When you're looking at your phone, is it down on your lap? Or better, bring it up towards in front of you, laptop, iPad. Don't be in this slumped posture while you're looking at those, or be aware of that and then
Yeah.
adjust how you are doing that. We
Yeah.
want it straight up and down, just like we are when we're standing. Is when you're on your phone, when you're sleeping, when you're picking things up. We want a nice,
Yeah.
strong spine. That's what we call a strong spine, where hips are over the shoulders or over the head. And I don't want to guarantee it, but I'm pretty close to guaranteeing that most people have heard you want to lift with the legs and hips, right? Not with the spine, not with the back. This is
Mhm.
what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Not a rounded
Mhm.
position, but there again, if it's hard for you to get in that position, in that structure, that spinal position and structure posture, then it might be time to get it looked at, just because it might, I call it, stuck or restricted in that posture. So that's the adjust your lifestyle.
Amazing. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like fascia constriction, but goes with what you're doing. So tell me about
Mhm.
the feet.
Okay, traction. Now, sometimes people are like traction, man, that sounds scary. Well, there's no other better word for it, but there's simple supportive and corrective traction methods. One that we do in our office, but then also I do help people do virtually. But if you're trying to do it your own, um, so remember we talked about the most common postural distortion is this forward flexed posture, head
Right.
down. We're losing that. So is these are called simple towel exercises,
Right.
or towel supports, where you roll up bath towels and you put lying down on your back,
Mhm.
put one underneath your low back and one underneath your neck. And that
Okay.
helps to support the spine and mold it, because so many times the spine is broken down
Right.
from days, weeks, months, years of us being in a progressively weakening posture, like this forward flex posture, or from acute injuries that we've had that our body's compensated for. So now the ligaments. So this is actually the secret sauce, if you will. I don't want it to be a secret of CBP, of corrective chiropractic care, is remolding the ligaments in the correct healthy position, just like, or I shouldn't say just like, because it is different, but similar to correcting the poor spinal structure of your, sorry, poor structure of your teeth by
Oh,
going into an orthodontist,
right, right,
right?
right.
A dentist is not going to correct the structure of your teeth, right?
Right.
And the orthodontist and dentist, if they said, okay, I want you to push on your teeth
Mhm.
uh, 3 times a week,
Yeah.
is that going to change the structure of the teeth?
No, but braces,
No.
I see what you're saying.
What
Yeah.
braces do, that's what
We're trying
traction
to run it.
is similar to. The
Nice.
great news, unlike with braces where you have to wear them 24 hours, 7 days a week, these are in spurts. So, like once a day for 15 to 20, you work up to 15 to 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes on these towels to
Oh,
help support the spine. So,
oh,
those are specific exercises there, or sorry, traction that you can do
oh.
in a general sense, general specifics, I guess.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. It sounds a little bit like heart opening where you put the yoga block behind you.
Mhm.
Love this.
And this is where the whole assessment comes into play. Yeah, is where do you put the block? Where do you put the towel? In general, without me seeing anybody, but knowing that the most common postural distortion that, again, 2/3 of the world has, underneath the lower part of the neck and
Yeah.
in the small of your low back, and laying on that, starting off like 5 minutes, increasing it a couple minutes each day till you get to 15 to 20 minutes. And it's a passive form of an active passive form of traction. All
Mhm.
right. Because we need that to reform the ligaments.
This was so incredibly helpful. Thank you so much for demystifying spinal health and resilience. Can you share where people can find you to learn more?
Yeah. I'd love for you to go to drwolfert.com, and I'm sure you'll have a link for him, Jody. And I'll have you link to a spinal hygiene mini class. Like it's a one-page mini class that I created that goes into even these a little bit more of. I even go into hydrate, the exercise, adjusting the lifestyle, and traction, so you can get more specific on that.
That's so fabulous. Thank you so much for your time. This was amazing.
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope this podcast empowered you with some useful information and takeaways. If you liked this episode, please consider sharing a positive review or subscribing. I would also love to offer you my free parasympathetic toolkit as a gift just for listening. It will teach you how to activate the most important nerve in your body to turn on your ability to heal. This free toolkit includes a checklist, a video, and a detailed guide. If this podcast prompted any questions, you could always find answers at my blog at vibrantblueoils.com or my book, Essential Oils to Boost the Brain and Heal the Body. Until next time, wishing you vibrant health.